Hello, and welcome back to the Susana Gibb Show. I'm your host, Susana Gibb, and on this show, we celebrate the originals, big dreamers, and people who somehow manage to do all the things. Today's guest is Erica McLain, Olympian, national champion triple jumper, and interior designer. She's competed on the world stage like Beijing and Berlin. Ever wondered what it's like inside the Olympic Village? Or how to stay calm when the whole world is watching? Erica's got stories, strategy, and a whole lot of style. She's bringing confidence, mindset, and maybe a few design tips backed by neuroscience that'll have you questioning your beige couch and rethinking how your space makes you feel. Let's jump in. Pun absolutely intended. But first, a quick word from our sponsor, Gibb Insurance Services. They are here for all of your home, auto, commercial, and health insurance needs. And stick around for the end. We have an insurance tip about how to save money with those teen drivers at the end. Also, if you would, please share this podcast with someone who would like to know more about how to show up better in their life. And thank you in advance for being here. And now, on with the show. Everybody, this is Erica McLain. She's, first off, a badass. Seriously.
I like that we can curse on this. Is that okay?
Right? Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes,
cool.
That's a cool thing about it. You don't have to worry about bad words, right?
I love it.
She is an Olympian, a 14-time NCAA champion, and I'm going to say it exactly how it's on your website, the nerdiest interior designer you will ever meet. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, because I think, honestly, you lived out every little kid's dream, I want to start with the Olympics. So, what sport did you do in the Olympics?
I did track and field.
Okay.
Specifically, my event, while I competed professionally as a long jumper and a triple jumper, my Olympic sport was the triple jump.
Okay, and describe for people who are like, I don't know what the triple jump is. What's the triple jump?
Well, I love that they wouldn't know because honestly, when I started it, I didn't even know what it was either. When I started it, it was in high school, and our jump coach was like, I was doing split leaps around the track. I came up as a gymnast, which is what I thought I was going to be going to the Olympics, and maybe, who knows? But I got too tall, blah, blah, blah. I was doing split leaps, and the triple jump looks like you're just doing a bunch of split leaps in a row. I had never heard of it. But anyways, they used to call it, maybe apropos, is the hop, skip, and jump, or maybe hop, step, and jump, because some people might remember it. So that's kind of what it's like. You literally hit the ground, okay, you hit the board, you land again, and then you jump in the sand. But I'm like, wait, I haven't done this in a long time. But yeah, it's hop, step, and jump. And they say you hit the ground at 17 times your body weight. So I tell people, it's like the long jump. That way you just run, you jump in the sand. The triple jump, you run, jump, and then you land in the sand.
So do the extra steps help your length or hurt your length?
I mean, ideally, they should help your length.
They should
if
help
they're
your
hurting your, I mean, but you watch people's forms and it's like, oh, you're losing where you should be gaining right here. But yeah, but it all adds up. So like the long jump, they measure from when you take off from the board to where you land in the sand. Triple jump's the same thing, except you have to jump, you jump 3 times. They still measure from the board into where you land in the sand. But yeah.
So the Olympics, you were in 2008 in Beijing, which had to have been an interesting experience in and of itself, being in China, which is very different from living here. Was that your first time in China?
That was my first time in China, in fact. And I will say it was a little bit sad. I have a mixed feelings. And the Olympics, obviously, glorious, amazing. I think my favorite part about it, like I was fortunate as a world-class athlete from kind of the age of 15 when I made my first world team, getting to meet people from all over the world. And they don't speak your language, but you get to know them just by smiles and nods and playing games together. And just, it's amazing how much of humanity you can understand and connect with without speaking the same language. So that was beautiful. But the Olympics was a little interesting because I feel like kind of what happens in all kind of countries and cities that host is they have to cater to the entire world. So while, yes, it was my first time in China, It also felt like I was almost in any European city when I was in at least the main area of where the Olympics was hosted. But given who I am and how I am, I love to get to know the people and the local culture and all that. So my mom made sure, my mom was with me, so was my dad, that I got to like really go out and get immersed in the culture and the cities and country or parts of the country that are away from like kind of the main hub. But they were beautiful hosts. It was really amazing.
So when you go to, what's the place called where you guys, all the athletes stay?
The Olympic Village.
Yes, the Olympic Village.
Okay, so that was very special. So in normal like Olympic, like when you're doing world championships and you're just competing within your sport, you're usually just really at the hotel. Wow, the Olympic Village, it's literally that. It's a village for the athletes. Anyone who comes in, well, including the athletes, you have to surrender your passport to get in. So they will know, like they high security, but we had our own hair salons, nail salons, restaurants, arcades. It was amazing. Like literally going to dine and like, oh, hey, LeBron, you're just, hey, what's up? Playing Scrabble with Michael Phelps. Like you're there with Roger Federer, just like having breakfast. No big deal because you're all on the same team and it's just wild. The Olympic Village was, the Olympics itself is special, but I think, and that one's such a thing that like you really don't have access to, even like you can't buy a ticket to come into the Olympic Village.
No.
It is a very special place.
Can you stay in the Olympic Village before and after you compete? Or are they like, no, we got to rotate people in and out?
No, you stay in there.
Okay.
That's where most teams will stay. Now, it's a little different. Like the U.S. basketball team, for instance, was staying at a hotel nearby. So certain teams, certain countries, depending on how they may buy a hotel nearby, but those athletes will still have access. But no, it's literally your village for where you live from the moment you check in to participate in the Olympics to the moment you check out.
Okay, so walk me through what it's like to go out to the Olympic field, from leaving the village to going to the track.
Well, I'll say this was one of my downfalls at the Olympics because I didn't know. It's a long process from leaving to the check-in process to. And track and field's a little different. If anyone, plays other sports, where you more show up, your team does your warm up, like if you're playing basketball, and then, you got your warm up period, and then the clock game period starts, right? Track and field, there's always this kind of check-in period. There's a warm up period, and then you do compete. Wow, the Olympics though, there were so many stages of check-ins and waiting periods. And I mean, from the moment I checked in to the moment I actually started competing, it was hours. And so, me being my first Olympics and not being prepared, didn't know how to properly space my warm-up. And honestly, that I kind of messed myself up there because...
I would think you would need to bring food. Like, you need to bring
you
need
food
full of stuff,
and snacks.
right?
And well, for me, I had my little turtle. So one of my little spirit animals was a turtle, and I had this little Build-A-Bear turtle, which worked out really well because actually some track and field competitions, especially more like indoor competitions, they didn't allow you to bring snacks. But I can tell the secret now because I'm done. But my turtle had its shell was actually a backpack, and the backpack had a little zipper in it. I would hide everything in that turtle, from a full Starbucks coffee and snacks and whatever. So yeah, my little turtle, his name was Dylan, because dill pickle, green, whatever, I'm nerdy. My Dylan had my snacks, and you need snacks, but it was more, I just didn't know how to space the warm. So honestly, I was coming into the Olympic Games having been injured overseas competing. I believe I was in Belgium maybe. Had popped my hamstring, but had rehabbed it. But honestly was warming back up, and it was on an incline right before we were actually going to go out into the stadium, and I popped my hamstring again.
Oh, at the Olympics?
Yeah, because I was just trying, because I didn't know. I mean, and honestly, I was the youngest in the field, which was an accomplishment in itself, because most triple jumpers, like, it's an event that requires so much muscle memory that our world champions and our world record holders had been closer more to their 30s and early 30s, and I was 21. So I was pretty young to be able to make an Olympics. So
I mean, there's always that. It's I'm just glad to be there, but God, that had to have been a kick in the pants.
Yeah, it was a kick in the pants for real. And then the announcers were really kind. They were like announcing me as the youngest in the field, and look at her go, and da da da. But wow, I literally was like hobbling down the runway. And then to top it all off, too, something was up with my coach's badge. I don't know, like he was having trouble getting in the stadium. Someone was like, "Where's my coach? My shoelace is stuck in the thing," and my hamstring, and it was literally all the things. But you know what? With all that, I didn't get last. And I beat the other American, which I was mad at her for. I was like, dude, we gotta represent our country. I'm down. I need you to step up. But, say love. I was there. It was an I was there moment. At the time, it was an I'm here moment, and I'm the youngest, and I shouldn't even be here. I'm too young to be here, too whatever, but I'm here. And I should make 2 more teams, so it's okay. Enjoy this moment, learn from it. Next Olympics 2012, we'll be on it.
Yeah, it truly is amazing that you got to go there. And honestly, when I was a little kid, how old? I don't remember what Olympics Mary Lou Retton. Was that 2008? 2004?
No, I was 2008. So Mary Lou Retton.
Oh no, she was
1990 something.
No, not even 92. When was she?
Let's not date her. She's gonna be mad at us.
Oh, anyway, I just remember watching her and then going out in the backyard and like practicing sticking my landings. Oh my God, yes.
Oh, wait, we didn't do that. So that would have gotten you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But you worked with Bella Caroli.
I did. And actually, gymnastics is how, speaking of you going, you're lucky. Your mom probably was like, the fact that you only practice your landing and, your finish, good. I was too. My first time seeing the Olympics, so it was the 1988 Olympics.
Oh, it was probably 80s when she was in.
Yeah, when she was in. Because when mine was Shannon Miller, Dominique Luciano, Dominique Dawes, blah, blah, yeah. So Mary Lou Retton was a bit older. But anyways, so I was 2 watching my first Olympics. I didn't want to practice the landing. I wanted to practice all the flipping through the air.
Oh, yeah. I was doing backflips off our picnic table in the yard.
And sofas. And
yeah.
So my mom was like, oh, dear God, we have to get this child in gymnastics before she kills herself. She's clearly not going to stop. So yeah, the gymnastics was my true first love of anything, everything, humans, otherwise, gymnastics. Lived, breathed, it all.
And you got to be coached by Bella Caroli. Like, he's like an institution. He's
literally, yeah.
What was that like?
An institution, a legend, infamous, all the things. It was amazing. I mean, it was intense. I mean, but I think elite gymnastics is intense regardless. So, and I think a lot of people maybe here, we're in Dallas area, know, and maybe they don't know, but Plano, which is where I grew up, is literally considered the gymnastics capital of the world. What's her name? I think it's Carly Patterson.
Yes.
Okay. And so Carly Patterson, I was trained also by Nastia Lukin's father, Valari Lukin, and his partner Afghani started what is WOGA, World Olympic Gymnastics Academy. So I trained there for a bit as well. And I mean, my mom, I was training in the gym. I was up at like 4:30 in the morning before school, elementary, going to train, then to go to elementary, come home, quick snack or whatever, go back to the gym, train for several more hours, eat dinner around 10 p.m., do homework. And well, we had time to do homework at the gym because it was like, when else were we going to do homework? And then, back in the gym, I literally trained 24 hours a week as on top of school as an elementary school student. So when else do you learn that sort of discipline and rigor and all that? And then, spending my summers with Bella and his wife Martha and at their ranch outside of Houston, New Waverly is where it was. It was intense, but that was the kind of kid I was. I kind of also needed that level of like rigor and intrigue and fascination and just mindset growth. It was intense. I mean, we worked hard, played hard.
Yeah.
Worked real hard.
When did you stop gymnastics?
There was one day, like honestly, like my growz sports, because I'm 5'8".
I was about to,
I'm way tall.
I'm like, is 10, 11, 12?
I was probably 11. There was just one day, honestly, like the 2 times I went through massive growth spurts, I kind of ended up with kind of a vertigo sense where like all of a sudden I had this phobia of like going backwards. I couldn't do a backflip to save my life, or back handsprings especially, Because I think what I understand now as an adult is like, well, your sense of your height ratio to the ground shifted so fast. So yeah, that was terrifying for me as a kid. And there was just one day, I think I was 5th grade. So probably it's more closer to 10, maybe I had turned 11, but I just was doing my homework and I looked up, my mom was like, hey, it's time to go. I was like, I'm not going. And in fact, you go tell them that I'm not going.
I'm done.
I was literally done. And it took me about a week before I could, because my parents always taught me, like, I could always explore. I explored all kinds of sports, everything, all kinds of avenues. But it was always you do it with integrity. But it took me a week to find the words and courage to go tell my coaches, because I dedicated so much of my life since I was 4 to them and to the sport that I just couldn't do it anymore.
And that's when you found track and field?
That's when I found figure skating. Because that's what you do in Texas, right? No, yeah. So I literally found figure skating. My coach was a former Olympic athlete who actually wrote a book with Christy Yamaguchi. That was amazing. Her name is Cheryl Peak. Rest in peace. But yeah, so I found that. I found track, though. I tried it middle school, broke my growth plate a couple of times trying to high jump. So really, I found it freshman year of high school is when I found track and field, which is what I recommend for a lot of people with young kids.
You're like that amazing athlete that literally can probably excel at any sport. It's a matter of picking which one, right? Like just that gifted, right? You think about the football players who are like, I'm going to play football or baseball, and they could be amazing at either one.
You're talking about Michael Jordan?
Well, he's one. Wasn't Patrick Mahomes another?
Oh, yeah, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah.
And then you get to Dion. Mm-hmm. Didn't he play a couple different sports?
Probably.
Yeah.
Who knows? Okay, so facts. Okay, I'm going to just, real truth. So, yes, I played sports. Yes, I went to the Olympics. I was a professional athlete. I know the least about sports of anyone. You'll probably agree. I'm impressed that I know the names that you just mentioned, to be honest.
Okay. So back to the Olympics.
Yeah, back to something I know.
Actually, no. Let's go back to what was your most favorite competition?
Location,
that where you were like, man, I rocked this. This was my favorite one. Your best performance.
I will say my favorite one was definitely NCAA's my senior year. So NCAA's 2004, outdoors, which had always been in Sacramento, which was kind of the backyard to my undergrad of Stanford, where seniors could, because Stanford has a later academic year than most of the schools. So most of these schools are already done and on summer vacation by the time nationals happen. Anyways, Stanford's usually going through finals and graduation. So seniors were able to like just drive back and forth a few hours from Sacramento, do the events and come back and compete. My year, as my luck, would be the first year it was ever in like Boise, Idaho. And normally not a problem, except when the fact that one of your college friends happens to be Oprah Winfrey's goddaughter, and you were going to get to go to dinner with Oprah and hang out and meet Oprah. And what? Yeah, I'm not going to nationals. I'm hanging out with Oprah. Thanks. Bye. I've been to 3 other nationals. We're fine. So anyways, I would say my favorite, but least favorite, because I really didn't want to go, was competing at NCAA's, my final nationals in Boise, Idaho. I think it was Boise, Idaho, wherever I was. No, it wasn't Boise. It was Des Moines, Iowa. I always mix those two up. Idaho, Iowa.
Starts with an I. I mean,
yeah.
Right?
And it's far, and it's not where I can drive back to my graduation events.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was Des Moines, Iowa. So Des Moines. Anyways, yeah. So I was like, if I have to be here where I don't want to be, we're making this count. And yeah, I jumped 6 inches over the American record. And so we did the thing.
That's awesome.
And then I went back and I graduated. That was great.
No Oprah.
No personal meeting of Oprah, but I'm like, well, if I ever get a chance, at least I have a good story of like, hey, I missed you because.
That is a good story.
But I did get to, I begged, me and this other gal on my team begged our way. Our flight was delayed due to the weather, so we begged our way onto a different airline's flight and made it back in time to at least see Oprah speak at our graduation
That's
ceremony.
good.
And she was awesome.
So what was your hardest experience? Because it's not all roses. I mean, the Olympics was
Never.
hard, I'm sure, but was that the hardest, or was
No, Olympics
No.
wasn't hard because, it was one of those, oh, you're just lucky to be here. You're so young. You'll have several more. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to retire. I wanted to retire what would have been the 2016 Olympics, so I would have been 30. God, I'm really just going to date myself, y'all. All going to know how old I am. No one usually knows how old I am, but you all know now. Do your math or don't. But anyways, I was like, I'm going to stop at the 2016 Olympics on my own terms, blah, blah, blah. That would have been nice. Yeah. So the Olympics was not my hardest. That was just, I thought of at the time, a fun kind of precursor to what's to come. No, my hardest though was the year after. So 2009, so I competed 2008 in the Olympics. 2009 World Championships was in Berlin, Germany. And the way I had been, how I was trained, how physically fit I was, everything. At the time, still, and actually I think it really just happened at this past, what year are we in right now? 2025. So 2024 Olympics, I'm pretty sure it's the first time, 2024 Olympics is the first time in a U.S. American triple jumper has ever been on the podium, like in the top 3 spots at any world-class Olympic or world-class event, World Championship or Olympics. So anyways, that just happened. So anyways, back in 2009, this certainly hadn't happened, but I was where I should have been able to make that podium and earn that spot. No, I didn't even make finals. I was like, what happened? I just remember crying, just curled up in a ball, the back of the bus, on the way back to the hotel, like, you're literally not even, you didn't even make finals, let alone, which is where finals, like for people who don't know, like you get your first 3 jumps in, and that's what qualifies you for then another 3 jumps and sometimes it's the second day, so it's really the first 3 jumps that qualifies you then for another 6 jumps. But no, we sure didn't qualify for anything, so it didn't really matter. I was like, what happened? And it like literally hit me. It was almost like, I remember that the bus actually swerved from hitting a biker. And so everything went, and at the same time, my mind was like, bing, oh, okay. When you're in an Olympic level, world-class athlete, everyone's body is just as trained as yours. It can lift the same amount, my squat max, my clean max, everything's probably the same as everyone else's that I'm competing against. Our technique is nearly the same, blah, blah, blah. Who wins out is who's done that extra step of training their mind, which I had not been doing. I'd just been physically trained. I wasn't seeing a sports psychologist or therapist or anything. I wasn't really thinking about, I was just literally going through the motions, and it was all like, oh yeah, this is all the next steps. This is all the next whatever. I wasn't even saying mantras, like not even mantras. So anyways, that competition was real brutal, but it was also the biggest wake up call to be like, oh, your mind is your strongest muscle in your body. And why wouldn't you train your strongest muscle like you train the rest of your muscles? So yeah, it was a wake-up call. So I started working with a sports psychologist. He was remote. He was based out of Colorado, and I was in California. But every Wednesday, like clockwork, we were on a call.
So what would you do on the call? If you can share a couple of things. You don't have to get like...
Well, it was just good because I can't remember everything we did,
right.
Honestly. I can remember the one Wednesday, which is when my injury happened, where I was like, Steve, hey, I can't make our Wednesday call because I'm laid up in the hospital. But anyways, no. So we would talk, I'll just say the core thing that mattered to me, and what I tell people is like, first it's like breaking down, who am I? What am I motivated by? Because people look at me as like, oh, you're an athlete, so like you're really competitive, right? Not really, at least not in the traditional sense. I'm very competitive with myself, but the zeal and drive and aspiration to win and just be the best, and like that's not actually what motivated me. And it took a lot of just kind of uncovering who am I and what motivates me to kind of figure out what makes me tick. And what we realized was, it's sort of that like, what do you want to say you achieved? What do you want to be able to toast to on your 100th birthday or whatever? It was that I wanted to be able to leave kind of a legacy or wake of people, mostly kids, that felt inspired and inspired to be themselves in their own quirky, very unique ways. I think, like I tell people, I grew up in a very tumultuous household, to put it nicely. And I was raised truly by a village. And I always wanted to be able to kind of pay that forward and help a child beyond their parents realize their unique gifts and quirks and personality differences, and just celebrate them. Because also, I know, like, parents, and now that I'm a parent, we're all trying our best, right? But we only know the world and life through our own experiences. But anyway, so what we would train on a lot of in my it was a lot of visualization work.
Okay.
So for me, it was me thinking about when I would go to compete. There's an 8-year-old or so, 7-8-year-old in the stands that is not only seeing all of my mechanics, all of my movements, all of my kind of behavioral patterns, but they can also hear my thoughts. So if I'm engaged in negative self-talk, if I'm mad at myself or showing like poor sportsmanship, that's what they're learning to mimic and do for themselves. So it was sort of that, like, how am I doing rote kind of visualization and memorization and training such that I'm training myself in a way that would be inspiring and beneficial to that 8-year-old that's very impressionable growing up. So that was one thing. A lot of just like, so that's different from a lot of athletes, I think, sometimes maybe, but I think that was, and that's where the sports psychologist was so good. He really got personal and really, yeah.
It's so fascinating to me. I remember hearing Gabby Thomas
Yeah. Oh,
speak. Oh, she's badass.
yeah.
But she was like, I think she was like, oh, I started working and visualizing months before I even got there. I visualized winning. I visualized this. And it's hard because I'm not a world-class athlete. I'm like, how does that make a difference? How does that help you get to the next level? Like, how do you make the connection? Can science explain it? Or is it literally one of those things that you have?
There's that whole trust the process thing. No, but there is science behind it. It's more factual than that. It's not so whimsy flimsy, like, oh, does it work? No. We've all heard that probably saying, like, seeing is believing. And sometimes it's seeing someone else do it first. Like, it's hard. They say, like, legends do it first. Like, I think it was Prefontaine. Like I said, don't know sports, so it might be wrong. But somebody, maybe it's Steve Prefontaine, was the first person to run the sub 4-minute mile. And it had taken a long time. No one had done it. But next thing you know, there's this whole wake of distance runners doing sub 4-minute miles because someone had done it so they could see it. It was possible. So that whole seeing is believing thing is true. And so I think when you can see yourself, and you do have to, the mind, like I said, strongest muscle, it has muscle memory. So when it knows that, hey, we're going to achieve this, it knows that's what it's going to do. And negative talk, well, if you're like, you're scared, you're timid, well, that's what you're training your mind on, is that negative, fearful, hesitant talk. So, like, your cortisol levels are going to spike, and you're going to get nervous at times when you otherwise would be confident if your brain was trained on that. Like, no, we see ourselves standing in the podium. No, we see ourselves giving that keynote talk. No, we see ourselves winning that deal, with the big partner that we want.
Why is it bad if your cortisol levels go up, though? Does that not give you extra energy?
So, well, probably more. There's a balance, right? Okay, so there's a balance of, like, this hormonal balance of where you want to kind of maintain homeostasis, and everyone has their different hormonal balance levels. But cortisol is that stress hormone.
Okay.
So stress is more draining and negative energy versus what they would say, like, dopamine. Dopamine is your kind of like happy, positive sort of hormone. And then you want that serotonin level as well to, like, also keep you calm, because if you have too much, like, dopamine, you'll be way overstimulated. and it'll have the same thing, too much of a good thing, right? So you need kind of all those. The main hormones are that dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol, having those kind of in harmony, and having cues that kind of help you kind of bring you back to that homeostasis point. And like, I think I maybe mentioned this to you before, but this was this book that was by it's not by, but one of my Stanford strength coaches, Shannon Turley, actually. He turned me on to this book called Mind Gym. Okay. You can see it's pretty tattered. It's written in all the things. I literally carried this thing around like a child's blankie to all my competitions, practice, everything. But this was my seeing is believing, my rote memorization. And one of the things I think was really key, and I wrote it down, and it's in here actually, is sometimes it's hard to always be mindful, right? Your brain is so busy. But this book is like, it says, I asked them to create a word that when said to themselves will block out all negative thought and help relieve tension. And so just you can come up with any word. So amongst all your brain just going off haywire, simple word. My word was fly. Okay. So even when things were just I just fly. Oh, and like, and I practice that all the time, because when you're in competition, in that boardroom meeting, on that keynote stage, whatever, that is not the time to figure out what this word is. It's when you're building the presentation, every team meeting you have, that's your when you're in practice mode, you practice and get that sensation, and that sensation should start to calm you with that word.
Did you use that word before your competitions?
All the time. I used it in practice.
Okay. Anytime
I would get anxious, because like I try to make practice, and my coach was also trying to make practice like a competition, so that I would feel those same hormonal rushes at practice. Because if I didn't get used to feeling them at practice, I wouldn't know how to regulate it at competition time. And then it was this word was like a kind of return to, okay, block out all the mental noise. And then I also had several other cues, because it's not just your mind that controls your hormonal levels, it's all of your senses. So it's, your taste, your sight, your touch, your smell, it's everything. So this word was the easiest one, right, that I could just say to myself. But,
I love that. Yeah. Now, do you listen to music before competitions too? You get all hyped up?
I do, but not in the way that most athletes do. Most athletes, you're listening to, I don't know, Linkin Park or okay. So I listened to a lot of kind of like rap, or not. That's not rap. That's like rock, whatever that would be. But like rap artists, whatever you'll
hype
music. That's not me. So I learned in terms of also hormonal levels. It begins with an L, and I don't remember the name of the hormone, but it's basically the hormone that enables you to process adrenaline. Okay. It took us a long time to realize, like, I would be at competitions and, oh my gosh, my calf muscles would cramp up. And if you've ever looked at anyone's like calf muscles, you see people with long calf muscles, like it's long from the bottom of the kneecap through the top of the ankle. You're more like that slow twitch muscle. You're more of a distance runner. Sprinters and jumpers and short sprint burst athletes have like much shorter calf muscles. But anyways, when that calf muscle kind of contracts, like you end up almost on your tippy toes. And for me, like you can't relax. You can't be flat-footed. And that would happen sometimes. And we didn't know. It was like, okay, am I dehydrated? Because I was cramping for sure. No, I wasn't dehydrated. It turned out I just couldn't process adrenaline.
So did you get tested for this, like a blood test?
Yeah, so we did blood tests.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they can see how you process
adrenaline and all kinds of things.
Interesting.
And so we realized, well, I actually need to, and so I think cortisol, like you were saying, cortisol can probably help you more in short bursts, and maybe it dovetails with adrenaline and blah, blah, blah. I needed to significantly reduce that, and probably, I guess if you were to look at it, it's probably increase my serotonin levels, which is normally where people are like, we're sleepy, calm, whatever. But I had to counterbalance adrenaline rushes. My body physically and clinically could not handle adrenaline rushes, which is what most athletes need. So I would be listening to, okay, as a 2-year-old, I've been the nerdiest person, nerdiest interior designer, nerdy, any insert everything, nerdiest person most people will ever meet since I was a baby, I guess. But as a 2-year-old, I fell in love with Yanni and Enya and other New Age classical artists. So I would listen to New Age classical and violin music, concertos, and if I wanted to really spice it up, I'd listen to the Verve Bittersweet Symphony. That's as spicy as we got.
Actually, I shared this. This was the thing that I was like, there was something that I wanted, that I lost the thread when we were talking before, but this was it, actually. I shared this with a married couple in my office. They both run. And she was like, oh, yeah, no, I couldn't do that. And he was like, I do that. I have to have the calm music, and she has to have the pump-up music.
When I would go run, speaking of run, with my fast twitch muscles, because I wasn't allowed to, you don't want to destroy that. So you do have to, it's the balances of all things physical, hormonal is real. So I wasn't allowed to run more than 3 miles in general. But when I would go for a run, I listened to Sarah McLaughlin, but the slow songs.
Did you listen to the sad song that they play with the puppies?
Well, not so much because that one was really overplayed. So generally skip that one. But that kind of vibe.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Okay, so tell me about, you also brought this other book. What is the other book that you brought today?
So the other book is called Golf is Not a Game of Perfect by Bob Rotella. He was a top sports psychologist for a lot of very famous golfers, Phil Mickelson and among others, Tiger Woods. And no, I'm not a golfer. Sure don't know how to golf. I know how to create holes. So if I try to swing a golf club, I do like putt-putt, but that's the nerdy side of me. That's kind of
not the same.
It's definitely not. But anyways, I don't even know. This may have been my dad's book. My dad was an avid golfer. How I got my hands on this, I don't know. But I read it. And what's so fascinating to me, and I think people look at, especially the triple jump, and a lot of sports, they think of like power and strength and brute force almost, all that. But without even being a golfer and understanding kind of the mindset of a golfer through this book, but I realized it is so, obviously golf is physical, so heavily mental, as is everything. But for some reason, this connected with me. In the triple jump, I also realized I couldn't brute force power the ground. It was all about timing and finesse. And yes, there's strength. Of course, you're hitting the ground at 15 to 17 times your body weight. You gotta be strong. But it was timing and finesse and really mindset. And I think, if I remember correctly, I haven't read this in a long time, but like, it's also not about, nothing is about perfection. I think I one of an old mentor once told me, like, practice makes permanent. And it's like, you will always have mistakes. You will never be perfect. And that's great, because without perfection, you will grow by leaps and bounds. And that's the only way we grow, is through opportunities of failure and embracing that failure. So yeah. So
what happened once you started implementing this with your triple jump?
Well, my coach would actually take me out to the golf range, which he thought was fun because he did like to golf. We go at the Stanford's golf range, which, was cool because Tiger Woods competed there. Oh, what's her name? Oh, there's an amazing female golfer, and I feel terrible that I can't remember her name. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. I've met her. She's very tall. But anyways, so we do this, but it was more just thinking about aspects of the senses and thinking about. And what aligned with me so much, I mentioned like I needed calming music. It almost kind of taught me about the strength of kind of a quiet storm, or the strength of peace and calm, and how that can be a force for, just navigating areas of hardships and whatnot. And
how did it affect your triple jump?
Grace, which was something I never was. Yeah. My grandmother used to call me Grace. Growing up, I was definitely a bull in China shop, so she thought it was funny to call me Grace.
Did it make your jumps longer though?
It did. And it just taught me, oh yeah, don't overwork. It's literally about timing. You can't force it. I mean, kind of the same, I think, with almost everything. Like, a lot of times you brute force things, you break it. You don't go through the actual understanding. And I think a lot of it is you don't understand the mechanics. Sure, maybe you can brute force a lot of things, but that means you're not really understanding the mechanics of the way the gears work, the way you could probably brute force a concept that you want a colleague or partner to kind of understand. But this was almost like, if you don't take the time to get to know who they are, get to know what's happening on what's the opposite reaction and the opposite force that you're kind of up against, you're ultimately going to fall short, or at least not have like strong repeated interactions and consistency. So this taught me a lot about consistency, because
didn't all your mindset work have a negative effect in some way though too?
Okay, yeah, it was funny. Yeah.
It was?
Yeah, it's like funny. Yeah, it did.
In a good, bad way?
Good, bad way.
Tell the good, bad way.
So all my mindset work, learning about how to jump farther, learning how to kind of finesse the ground and timing, led me to jump further than I ever had. I had already just made it to being number 10 in the world in the triple jump. And there was one day at practice. We had actually, that year, it was 2011, I was like, I'm gonna forego the indoor season, because like, coach, we're gonna blow it out the water. So 2011. Don't tell me. I think the championships were in Osaka, Japan, maybe. But anyways, I was like, let's just like we're gonna be the secret weapon. We're gonna come out the gate so strong, people are gonna know when to hit them. So let's not do indoors. Let's not open the kimono too soon. I practiced one day. It was in March 11th, 2011. I went my hop and my step, which should land back on the track. That time my step landed in the sand. And my coach was like, huh, what? Go back 1 foot, do that again. Like, I dare you, basically. I was like, okay. I went hop and step. Oh, did the same distance. But guess what? Because I moved back that 1 foot, this was the furthest I'd ever jumped in my life. I hit where the runway meets the sand pit. It's a concrete edge. It's, like I said, you hit the ground 15 to 17 times your body weight. Mm-hmm. So that snapped my ankle upside down like a Lego piece. Like, I tell people, if you've ever stepped on chewing gum or something outside, it's interesting. I feel like people don't chew gum anymore. I don't see gum on the sidewalk anymore. But anyways, I used to. But anyways, my foot was flipped completely upside down. Like, I wasn't having to search for the bottom of my shoe. No. It was a whole medical anomaly because nothing broke. It was just the bone completely passed through the skin. It was complete open dislocation. And yeah, pretty ironic that
all your mindset work led you to jump the farthest you've ever jumped. And then I don't know if you can pop your foot up on the table.
Do you want me to? It's not very classy, but I'll do it.
No, let's see, because this is,
I'll say, sorry, Mom. Not very classy.
But you're about to go number what, 8?
This is surgery number 8.
Wow.
I technically still need more. What I need is a full ankle replacement surgery. But I'm gonna. I can't get
your block.
Fold up like a pretzel. I need a full ankle replacement surgery. But the technology, given the lack of blood flow to the ankle, really, even in someone who's like 75, 80 years old, that's not nearly as active as I am, running around with 2 toddlers, it only holds up 5 to 10 years. Yeah. So for me, maybe that would hold up 3 to 5 years. And so we're doing the maintenance steps we can to keep kind of my ankle functional until either technology improves or I can just get a replacement.
Well, you seem like you're practicing a good mindset for an ongoing irritation that would be very devastating to a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to. And I think when I was going through this, that was the time for sure. So like, yes, devastating injury, hardest time of my life, but also best time of my life, because I also realized the power of positivity. Like, I mentioned like the Olympics, going to the Olympics for me just was like, okay, kind of the next step, the next kind of promotion along a long-term career. It wasn't something like I really pushed for and strive for, and I wish it was. But to excel through this, like I was told I would walk again, but I'd likely never run again, let alone hit the ground at 17 times my body weight. But I also knew, hey, this is a medical anomaly. You've never seen this before. So you actually can't dictate what's going to happen. So let's see. Anyway, so power positivity is just like that whole dopamine and hormone regulation, if you are stressed and sad, like your cortisol levels are spiking, your stress levels are, and we know like diverticulitis, like stress causes so much deterioration of the body. Mm-hmm. It certainly inhibits healing of the body. So I knew that I had to, if I had any chance of recovering, I was going to have to be positive and stay positive and figure out like very innovative technologies and opportunities to rehab myself. And I did. I was even training at the NASA research facility in Moffett Field. I was doing Hawaiian lomi therapy, all Eastern Chinese medicine therapies, all these kind of things. And with all that, in less than a year, I actually got back to being #1 in the U.S. in triple jump. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Now, I know you take a lot of the mindset and you employ it in your corporate world because now you're an amazing interior designer. And I know that you do it before you speak and you practice your visualization and you're taking all the stuff that you got in here into your corporate world. But I kind of really want to shift for our last little bit here before I have to lose you to how you use it in your interior design and a little bit of the neuroscience.
Sure. Well, for my business, it is the end result, or how we produce our end results are a lot of that neuroscience, because for me and what I have found is when you can understand people as individuals, and for me, that's my team, and we focus predominantly on residential interior design because I do like working with that one-to-one client and really designing bespoke pieces. And to me, there's nothing more bespoke than getting to know someone's ins and outs and truly their nervous system and being able to design for creating that hormonal balance for them. So for me, that becomes the neuroscience becomes a problem-solving tool and a decision-making tool. Which wood grain pattern should we use? What color frequencies are we using in the house? What aromatherapies? What airflow? All the things come down to the end homeowners. How do we maintain those like hormonal balances that are the healthiest for them? But one thing I do say that we haven't really addressed it. We talk about mindset, and like I think I was really fortunate when I was an elite athlete. I was paid to eat well, work out, keep my body in shape, keep my mind in shape. I found that's a lot harder when you are what I call a corporate athlete, where you have different deliverables. You maybe don't have all the time. I eat horribly now. Good God, if I eat, it's a miracle. Like during the day, I would be at 8 o'clock. I'm like, you haven't had a bite of food today. Yeah. But what I have found that can shift and kind of augment the time you may not have for mindset, mantras, meditation is process. So kind of based on my whole Olympic journey, while yes, when people ask, did you win a gold medal, I was always like, kind of sad, like, no. But what I've realized is actually I did. I won the gold medal kind of life, of going through all the things that I went through, all the process, all like these learning opportunities, these tangible opportunities of failure, and being able to learn from them. And so I've implemented that into a process that I've taught my team, that I also teach the others and other corporations, and we simply call it the GOLD method. But it's a routine. I think what's nice is even when, kind of how we talked about the simple word, like a word that grounds you, a word that brings you back to that routine practice that you've been remembering, even better, especially when you're in a corporation that is operating with a team, having because everyone's not going to resonate with the word. Like for me, it's fly, right? Yeah. For you, what? Fly is gross. Ew, touch. Ew. You know, me think of bug. I don't know. But like, if you have a process that everyone's bought into and there's tangible steps, that's something that everyone can get behind. So with GOLD, it stands for gather, organize, leverage, and deliver. So for us, that's how do we tackle any project? How do we handle any moments of adversity that come on any project, which will happen. There will be a pipe behind the wall you didn't expect. There will be, oh God, the paint spilled on the custom wallpaper, and like, what are we gonna do now? There's always something. But guess what? We're gonna gather the insights we have. We're gonna organize all the information and all the insights we have. We're gonna leverage all the tools in our toolbox and our trades and our resources. And next what? We're gonna deliver. And that's what we're gonna do every single time, no matter throughout the entire course of a project, but also through every even small instance of a project. And so that's kind of that mindset and how I think people can bring mindset into corporations at scale is having some, it doesn't have to be obviously not gold necessarily, but a repeatable process that everyone on your team is bought into, because you are only as strong as your weakest link. So if someone else isn't bought into your process, well, and then it's going to go rogue, well, guess what? That's going to reduce your consistency and output with a client and potentially erode your brand, equity. So
I love that. And explain a little bit about the neuroscience portion of your work.
Yeah, so the neuroscience portion, as we were talking about, we're going to get a little bit nerdy here.
All right.
Forgive me, but also go with me. Let's go.
Don't go too far. Just
if I go
dip
too
our
far,
toe.
dip our toe. Yeah. Okay. If I go too far, email me. We'll catch you back up. But okay, dipping the toe. So there's two things that I use to kind of, and I do keep it with my clients. I keep it very high level. We have a very high. I've worked with different environmental and kind of like cognitive psychologists as well to come up with a very kind of layman's terms survey that my clients fill out. But it helps us to then diagnose where they sit on, there's two things. There's kind of a triad of hominess, coherence, and fascination. Everyone falls somewhere on that triad. The other thing is there's a scale of neurodivergence. Everyone falls somewhere in that spectrum. So most people, the average person would be what they call kind of neurotypical, and you fall somewhere through that scale of neurodivergence. There's not a really name for where you fall in the triad, but I think it's also interesting to say that the triad to me is where you really figure out the hormonal balance, because coherence is like how organized things are. Some people thrive a little bit more under chaos, or they maybe need things more organized, and that ties into fascination. High frequency colors, high level of what they call fractal patterns, which are the repeating patterns in nature. And so if you think about, so just to kind of give you an example, in the summertime, when the leaves are very full, and they almost kind of look like clouds. As a kid, and especially before I had glasses, and so I didn't know, I just drew clouds as like fluffy, like cotton balls. So or trees as fluffy cotton balls. So that's what I thought. So I put on glasses. I was like, oh, there's individual leaves here. Oh, but anyways, it's still, in general, it's a lower fractal frequency, or D level as they call it. But when it's wintertime and you've got the branches, and so things are a bit more like kind of spiky, it creates a higher level. So that all impacts our nervous systems in different ways. We're more attuned to, there's more mid-level fractal patterns. But anyways, so you fall in that frequency, and then hominess is just how nurturing and warmth does the space feel for who you are. So that's one kind of decision-making piece. And then the neurodivergence piece is super important, though, and maybe the one that's more talked about, I think, more publicly. So people especially that have PTSD, have different learning disabilities, are, autistic. What I tell people is, when you walk into a room, and if you've ever walked in the room and you feel, like your shoulders drop, you just feel at ease. You're like, like you breathe a little easier, and it's just, wow. You may not know what's going on. You pointed out, I could. It's probably just getting to know you and be like, oh, this is the right color temperature for you. That's the right airflow. It's all the right. All those things are every sensory experience that you take in, from the touch of a fabric to the lighting temperature, et cetera, and the lumens of the light are impacting your nervous system. So for you, if that room makes you feel calm, that's amazing. But it doesn't mean it's a calming room, though. There may be someone else, especially if they are, let's say you're neurotypical. Someone else with severe PTSD walks in that room. Wow, like these like how close these slats are together, how like close the fabric is here. That creates a lot of stimulation for someone that may need something smoother, softer. This is a very rich blue. Like maybe they need a more subtle tone, a more gray tone to it, taking out some of the color frequency. So it's the same calming room for one person is not the same for everyone. And I think it's that's the beauty of it. And I think that's the beauty of being able to work with individual homeowners. And yes, while there may be homeowners that obviously have kids and like, so, but you kind of figure out where kind of the regression to the mean is and what the kind of the overall balance of the whole house should be. But then you're able to create unique spaces for the kids and the mom and the dad or the dads or whatever the home composition is, however they like to entertain. And I think it's fun. I think it's an amazing. To me, the most exciting thing about neuroscience, honestly, is that it takes the subjectivity out of design. It's no longer just, oh, you have taste, or oh, like this is pretty.
This is what I like.
It's what works for you, and truly, and we've found what heals you. I mean, we've found like studies that show like patients that go in the hospital and you have either a cityscape or a brick wall or something bland, versus a patient, same diagnosis, same like otherwise recovery period, but you look out onto a garden, green trees or something. That patient gets out of the hospital at least a day and a half earlier and stays in remission longer, just from the fractal patterns and the nature, and like that soothes truly their nervous system when otherwise everything would have been the same. And so I think I think we've all, a lot of us, most of us, I do think, as when I talk to clients, experience that through COVID, the importance and the impact of our built environments. So we already spend, even non-COVID times, 90-something% of our time indoors, the majority of that being in our own homes. So having a space that truly is designed for you, not based on your Pinterest board. It might be cute, but it might not be you.
Right.
The space that truly holds you and your family will enable you to thrive, even in times if, God forbid, we go back into quarantine. But like,
Right. That's so fascinating. I love that. You're so cool. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for coming on. How do people find you?
So we're MXD Interiors everywhere. So we're mxd.com for our website. If you got a project you want to reach out about, check out our Instagram. I'm not really great at posting, but I try. We try to keep it fun and inspiring and educational. But honestly, just if you Google my name, you'll find me. Reach out. I always tell people, like, I am a safe space. My team is a safe space. You don't need to know anything about design. All you need to know is about how you want to feel. And we'll do the rest.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for being with me.
Yeah.
Isn't she so cool? I really loved listening to her talk about her design. And personally, I think it may be that my husband and I need different things in our homes based on some of the stuff she said. So I'm kind of excited to explore that a little bit further with her. And now our insurance tip of the week, which is absolutely not related to design. However, we're getting this question a lot lately, so I wanted to address it. How to save money with a youthful driver. I'm going to be honest, it's challenging. Youthful drivers add about $400 to $450 a month to your insurance payment, but here are some tips to keep the rates down. 1, talk with them often and more often about how to be a defensive driver. Especially with aggressive driving in the cities, even rural areas, teens are having to learn to drive in expert mode. It's challenging, and teens statistically are not great drivers. So continuing to have those conversations to keep accidents and fender benders off your claims history will help. 2, they're better off with you on your policy. You have the multi-driver discount, marriage discount, you have credit, you have job history, you have a lot of things that teens don't have. So keeping them on your policy till they're about 21, 22, about that time you can start looking to get them quotes off of their policy and onto their own, off of your policy and onto their own policy. Do not get them a new car. Don't even get yourself a new car. I know sometimes parents get excited and they think, ooh, I'm going to give my teen my old car and I'm going to get a new car. Teens affect the rates on all the cars on the policy because, let's be honest, at some point, they're probably going to drive your new car. Even though parents swear up and down, my teen is not going to drive my car, prom, something special comes along, and they hand over the keys to that brand new car. And so, yeah, so there are some tips for saving money on your auto insurance with your teen driver. Thanks so much for being with us today. Please share this podcast with somebody who you think might benefit from learning some things about mindset and confidence. And we'll see you again soon. Have a good day.